Good morning, teacher. Today we are going to be developing our APE guide number 1, which is about conceptual frameworks of planning. The members of the group are Marcelo Borja, Madeleine Cano, Jamie Nuela, Fabricio Paca, and Josue Paredes. So let's get started.
Conceptual framework of planning. According to Lorraine, a good conceptual framework can help in the application of relevant theories, principles, or research findings in the planning and development of sound extension strategies and plans. So this article shows us about how can we encourage ongoing development, refinement, and evaluation of practices to identify and build on evidence base for the best practice. It works with effectiveness, reach, feasibility, sustainability, and transferability.
Okay, now a framework is a set of principles and guidelines that provide educators with a flexible approach to designing and delivering instruction that meets the diverse needs of all learners. A framework also recognizes that every student is unique and learns in different ways and seeks to provide multiple means of engagement, representation, and expression to support the learning needs of all students.
Now we are going to continue with some characteristics of a framework. And first, I'm going to tell you some strategies for effective lesson planning. We found an interesting research made by Stiliana Milkova, and she mentioned 6 different strategies that we have to take into account in order to achieve an effective lesson planning. The first one is about outline learning objectives. The first step is to determine what you want students to learn and be able to do at the end of the class. The number 2 is develop the introduction. Develop a creative introduction to the topic to stimulate interest and encourage thinking. The third one, plan the specific learning activities. Prepare some different ways of explaining the material to catch the attention of students and appeal to different learning styles. The fourth, plan to check for understanding. Now that you have explained the topic and illustrated it with different examples, you need to check for students' understanding. How will you know that students are learning? And think about some specific questions you can ask students in order to check their understanding. 5, develop a conclusion and a preview. Go over the material covered in class by summarizing the main points of the lesson. You can state the main points yourself, or you can also ask a student to help you. And the last one, create a realistic timeline. Finally, here, when you have done all the previous points that I mentioned, you are able to present the lesson plan.
Okay, adding some extra information to the characteristics of a framework in the lesson plan, we are going to find, in this case, some resources. And well, according to Madeleine Pownall and some other authors which have developed several lesson plans with different resources, they all agree that the most important resource is the teacher. In this case, the teacher is the one who is going to be selecting, in this case, or applying the objectives. And also it's going to be selecting the different activities and strategies to apply within the class. Also, resources are, in this case, essential for a class or for the lesson plan, because this is the materials, or maybe in this case, if we are using digital resources, the website of apps that are going to keep the students engaged. And so in this case, we are going to have the several websites where they can develop or can solve some different activities like puzzles, or maybe they have to fill some blanks, or maybe they can, in this case, create videos or audios. And when we are talking about physical resources, in this case, all the materials that the teacher and the students are going to have during the class. In this case, they can have some cardboards, pencils, pens, markers, and maybe some other like materials like Glider in order to create maybe projects or some different small activities where they can decorate, because that's the purpose, to keep them, in this case, engaged and motivated to keep on working. Now we are going to be talking about some models or types of frameworks that we can have nowadays.
Okay, now I'm going to talk about Bloom's taxonomy. So, according to Benjamin Bloom, Bloom's taxonomy is a 6-level classification system that uses observed student behavior to infer the level of student achievement, moving from simple to more complex, and it includes knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluations. So this article serves thinking within general education and within management education, which draws on Bloom's taxonomy, and then describes suggested uses of the taxonomy and its effect on students' achievement.
Okay, now I'm going to talk about the UDL framework. And according to Jenny Ruth, UDL is a framework that provides teachers with guidelines to design lessons that can be accessed by all students, regardless of their learning needs or abilities. This document explains how to apply UDL principles to mathematics instruction, including setting clear goals, providing multiple means of representation, expression, and engagement, and differentiating instruction based on student needs. This document also provides examples of how UDL can be used to plan mathematics lessons that meet the needs of diverse learners, including students with disabilities and English language learners. It emphasized the importance of using formative assessment and data to adjust instruction and ensure that all students are making progress towards grade level standards. Overall, the document provides guidance and practical examples for teachers looking to implement the UDL framework in their mathematics instruction to create inclusive learning environments that support the success of all students.
Okay, continuing with the third model that we have the DOK. In other words, it means the depth of knowledge created by WIFs. So in this case, we have a type of model which has been synthesized by Lin Wei and a couple of other authors. And they mentioned, actually they made a comparison between the Bloom's taxonomy and the DOK model. And they found out that in this case, DOK, it's basically based on the students' interests and needs, and also about their thinking and about in this case, the process that they go through when they are developing some activities. In this case, this model is going to be divided into 4 main steps. The first step, which is recall and reproduction, it is we can say that it is kind of a warm-up, because the students, what they have to do here is that they have to recall some information that they have been taught before. In other words, another activities that are going to keep the students interested in the activities that are going to follow this. And the second step, which is skills and concepts, here we are going to have some kind of explanation from the teacher, and also students need to complete some activities which are not really difficult, because this is based, we put it on the Bloom's taxonomy, it is based on the low thinking section. So we are not going to have like difficult tasks. In the third one, which is the strategic thinking, we are going to have, in this case, the high order thinking. We are going to have situations where students need to analyze and organize some information, and they are going to find and create their own knowledge, in other words, because they have to do some complex activities. And the last one, which is extended thinking, In here, they are also going to complete some other activities, but they are going to create some other ones. In this case, the teacher is going to give the instructions or the guidelines, and the students are the ones who are going to be selecting, in this case, the resources and also some activities that they want to develop in order to complete the task that they were asked to do.
Okay, now let's continue with the ISTE framework. But first, I'm going to give you a brief summary about what is ISTE. ISTE is a group of standards set by the International Society for Technology in Education to guide the best practices for using and teaching technology in learning environment. And now, after analyzing research, which is called ISTE Standards in Teacher Education, a collection of practical examples done by Terry Till and some other authors, we can conclude that the integration of technology into teacher education has a great demand, and institutions of all sizes are looking for some examples of effective programs to support their classes. The authors of this article offer a guide based on their experiences with 4 of the first 6 standards that belong to International Society for Technology Education. Through the practical examples, the article shows how these innovative programs meet the ISTE National Educational Technology Standards for Teachers, providing teachers educational programs with a useful guide for enhancing the curriculum, both on campus and in P12 classrooms.
And finally, I am going to talk about the model F5E. The 5E model provides a framework for educators to design and implement lessons that facilitate the students' understanding and retention of new contexts. The steps of the 5E model are engage, explore, explain, elaborate, and evaluate. So now I am going to explain each stage. Engage. At this stage, a teacher aims to capture students' attention and generate interest in the topic. For example, ask questions. Explore. Here, students are encouraged to research and explore the topic in a hands-on way. For example, group work. Explain. In this stage, the teacher provides a more detailed explanation of the topic. For example, discussions. Elaborate. Students demonstrate their knowledge about what they have learned. For example, projects, writing assignments, and problem solving. And finally, assess. Students are assessed to determine how well they have understood the topic. A clear example of this is quizzes. And 5E helps teachers create engaging lessons that accommodate students' different learning styles and help them achieve their learning goals. In the article, the EDP 5E, a rethinking of the 5E replace exploration with engineered design by Pamela Lotero and other authors mentioned that the practices teachers involved in these lessons were able to see the deep commitment, enthusiasm, and desires to solve problems. In the students applying EDP and 5E. Thank you.